Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, Brian. How are you, mate?
Good to be with you, mate. It's early morning for you. What, 9:30, 10
Y-
o'clock, something like that?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, 9 a.m. on a Sunday. So,
9 a.m. on a
uh,
Sunday. Oh, there you go.
yeah, I like to get these things over and done with, and then we can get on with the day.
A lot of people say that about me. Just get it over and done with. Yeah, that's what they say. I'm saying.
Great. Thought we'd just jump straight into it. We'll just quickly say hello to a few people that have joined already. We got TJ. G'day, TJ. And we got Chad. G'day, Chad. How you doing, mate? And we got Tim. Who else we got laying around? We got Rimfire Range Relaxation. How you doing, mate? Thanks for joining once again. So, yeah. So, Brian, mate, we'll jump straight into it. Where did your channel name came from? Hazzbro.
Well, it comes from a kind of a nickname that was selected, given, whatever. Many years ago, I started flying RC aircraft when I worked for Apple Computer, and that's another story maybe we get to later, out in California. But when I came back home to the Midwest, to Indiana, the state I live in, I started flying extreme aerobatics. And so this particular type is called 3D, and so it'll fly like a helicopter as much as it will on plane, like an airplane. So it has 2-to-1 typically thrust to weight. So you punch it, it just literally goes straight up. But in doing that, everything's stalled, right? So the aircraft is completely unstable. And the people at the airfields where we would fly, we had a group, there's still a group called the Profile Brotherhood. And the type of aircrafts we fly do that maneuver, but they're flat. The fuselage is just an inch or two wide, but it's done
Right.
that way for different reasons. But anyway, they would say, "Oh, it's dangerous," and yet they'd be flying the aircraft. They'd fly their models 150 miles an hour, 6 inches off the ground, and think that's safe. And we're out there at zero ground speed, 2 feet above the ground, hovering, and they think that's dangerous. So
Yeah.
that sort of became a nickname. It was, since it's a Profile Brotherhood, I
Right.
was the hazardous brother, right? And a play
Yep.
off Hasbro toy company, to be honest. And so that's where Hasbro came from. And we were talking about beforehand. If you'd like, I'll show a little video, a little part of it. That a good friend of mine, he goes by Stumpy, and
Okay.
Stumpy is an amazing guy. He has all kinds of physical issues. I mean, his nervous system is totally shot, and so he's just kind of messed up all the time. But the most amazing person to talk to. He could still build and fly these aircraft, and he could play the guitar like nothing else. It's like when he'd start playing the guitar,
Yep.
everything else shuts off. And that's what I'm
Okay.
going to show you a little bit of the video on. So let me pull this up if you don't mind, and you
Yeah, definitely.
get the idea of the talent of this guy. All right, we'll do this one. And hopefully you guys can hear this. I don't know how well it'll sound, but this is a place down south of Nashville, Tennessee, where we gather every year in the fall, and we fly these kind of aircraft. Now, there'll be small aircraft, and they'll be up to the size that I sold for a long time, my designs for these airplanes. And my designs went from 36 inches up to 96 inches and 55cc gasoline motors. And they
Yeah.
all do
Wow.
the same kind of extreme aerobatics. So let me play this for you, and to give you guys just a feeling for this kind of thing. So this is Stumpy playing. He does everything on the video as far as music. It just ticks me off that one person has this much talent. They're all flying at one time, if you see that.
Yeah. Wow.
We've had up to 70, I think almost 80 airplanes in the air at one time, all in close quarters. And that's called a vertical drag race. They'll hover and then accelerate to the top. I'll stop there because it's a little bit longer there. But I thought you might like to see that. That's where Hasbro came from hazardous flying and profiles brotherhood.
Yeah, that is absolutely awesome. Especially how defying gravity and going straight up vertical and everything like
Yeah,
that.
it's just cool. It's just cool. And it's such an amazing group of people because it's kind of they call themselves the 1%ers. Like the motorcycle gangs, the really worst of them call themselves the 1%. That's what they call this because a lot of clubs throw them out for flying like that. And yet they're the most talented of any pilots in RC aircraft because controlling it, everything is unstable and out of control. And that's the kind of fun stuff. So I designed those. I designed a lot of those aircraft you saw there in 5 different sizes, and I had fun do that because background's an engineer, so it was fun for me to do that.
So obviously, been doing that for a fair bit of time.
Yeah, if you don't look close at the date of that video, but I started in the video somewhere around I think 2008, roughly like that. But I've been flying RC aircraft since 1989. Yeah, 1989, and that's why I started in California, but not that type of aircraft. I started flying gliders, racers, quickie 500s. These are doing like 170 miles an hour, and they're their own adrenaline rush on their own. But anyway, I found that more challenging, that kind of flight.
Yeah, like some of those RC planes, I can barely even fly a drone. So,
Yeah,
like massive respect to those guys that can fly that. And, I've seen a few YouTube videos similar where they're flying upside down and they've got, especially the helicopter guys, how they can literally flip the helicopter upside down and
they are
hover at one
insane.
spot. And
Some of the guys
that's
I showed you there, I mean, most of them outfly me. I can fly, but those guys are crazy talented. And the stuff you talk about getting disoriented, being a full scale pilot, and we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later, but spatial disorientation is a big thing when you're not in the plane. It happens to you in the plane, but when you're not in the plane and you roll like this, and all of a sudden the belly's facing you, and you're this far away from your face, it's a whole new world, you know.
yeah, you don't want to press the button the wrong way.
That's that's it, especially a big propeller spinning right there, you know. And
So
some
some
of
of
them are
those,
big.
yeah, I was going to say some of those planes are massive, like those big, oh no, the big jets that I've seen flying around, and
Yeah.
it'd be huge.
Well, the biggest one I designed, like I say, it takes a 55 cc gas motor. There's been a guys put bigger ones on there, but 55 cc, it's crazy. You can hover right there and just punch it, and it just takes off. But that's a for you. I'll convert for you. A little over 2.4 meter wingspan, and if
Oh
you saw
wow,
a little bit longer than that, fuselage is closer to 3 meters than that. But it'll turn, it'll tumble. We do these different waterfall type maneuvers
yeah,
within the length of its fuselage. And to get an airplane to do that and not just crash is crazy difficult. And so, and there's a lot of structure because, like I say, that thing is flat. Let me get my camera lined up here. It's, I think that one is an inch and a half thick and it just wants to bend, right? So you got to build a lot of structure, carbon fiber tubes in the middle of it, things like that. So they don't naturally fly that way, but we design them so they can fly that way if you are a competent pilot.
yeah, wow. Um, that's a big airplane, like over
It's
2 meter wingspan. That's big.
it's real big. The smallest one is about 1 meter, right?
That's
36
still
inches,
big.
a little bit less than 1 meter. And those are typically small gas or electric motors. A lot of people have electric on it. That big one I mentioned, I had a guy put an electric motor on it, and it was insane power. Now you couldn't fly as long as the gas, but I mean, man, you hit that throttle, and it was just gone. You literally were looking for it. So it's fun.
What are your thoughts about the evolution of RC planes and moving into more commercial side? I recently seen a video where Adam Savage and the Slow Mo guys visited a company where they're building and developing drones for delivery. What's your thoughts about that?
I'll give you the same thought I have on that I have on autonomous vehicles. Being a pilot, full scale pilot, and being one that appreciates certain levels of automation, especially you're in the soup, what we call in the clouds and bad weather, et cetera. There's certain things you want done. Total automation is dangerous to me. And they're like, oh, it's great. Look, it's on a closed track, maybe a closed road, maybe. but the world is very complex, and to sense and be able to anticipate everything that a human mind can, I think is very risky. The human brain is still the fastest computer system, bar none. It's not even close. And the fact we have idiot drivers on the road for an argument, but
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
as far as autonomy, the world is very complex, and the people that are testing it are generally like in Arizona, California, where generally it's perfect weather and you don't have a lot of really radical things going on, no ice, no snow, no sleet, whatever, where things start to break down and the world gets very complex. So there will be a certain level of autonomy. Getting it fully autonomous on every possible road condition through all the countryside, through all the cities, with all the people, with all the pets, I just think it's a foolish dream. But they're working on it, spending a lot of money, our company included. So
Yeah, well, like for what I've seen in that video, millions upon millions of dollars to try to cover all aspects. And as you said, the real world is very unpredictable, and especially when they're trying to develop strategies, like when they lower the package on a rope, they want to make sure it has a breakaway system if somebody tries to pull down the drone, and
yeah,
or even in the landing zone, it's able to slew itself to the left or right. That way, it doesn't drop the package on somebody or something.
yeah, and there's just a lot of real world dangers beyond trying to anticipate weather, buildings, wind between buildings, shifting, changing all the time, and then you have people, and people don't always have the best of intentions. And so sometimes there'll be kids out there messing with it or shooting at it with BB guns, which we may talk about later. Different things like that. The real world is very complex, and people are going to be gambling with other people's lives and this stuff. And sooner or later, if the government quits protecting the businesses and makes them stand on their own, the lawyers will regulate this, right? The lawsuits will regulate it. I'm not against the technology. I do today, but I've lived the highest level of technology, and maybe we'll talk later about Apple Computer and all that stuff. But I know the limits, and I have a good, I think, at least I think I have a good grasp of what can be done, what should be done. And hey, maybe I'm getting older, maybe I'm wrong. So,
Well, like the evolution of technology keeps marching forward. Like even for myself, the last 20 years, I was actually talking to a mate of mine the other day, and my generation is probably is the last one that experienced the world prior to internet. And then now we're into the internet, smartphones, and today's generation, they have no idea what that's like. And even for myself, like technology is even starting to leave me behind. How quickly it is moving forward.
yeah, I this is a sign I'm getting old, but anymore, I want to decomplicate my life because my life is very complicated. Technologically speaking, I should say, because my whole world is about. I just tell you, I'm a plastics engineer by trade, and I manage an engineering group, and we do computer simulations. And these computer simulations predict and simulate the process of injection molding specifically. There are other ones we do too, but it's an incredibly complex task to do. But you do that because you launch a mold, like some of the molds we launch for the products we make are $1 million. And you can make one very easily. It doesn't work at all. And so you've lost $1 million. That's the bad thing. But in the development time, your customer cannot wait for you to fail. They're not going to wait for another 6 to 8 months or whatever it is to build a mold, another
Yeah.
one that works. And so the risk reward, you have to do this work ahead of time. So I do that work. Um, that's kind of, I don't want to go on too much. That's how I mentioned Apple. That's how I got to work at Apple. So I went to university for all this, and our university was the second one in the country to actually get this software, and it came from Melbourne, Australia. One of the most amazing guys I've ever met, a guy named Colin Austin, is the one who invented this software called Mold Flow. And he was sitting there trying to figure out, he's a university professor trying to figure out some plastic flow problems. And he's taking a string and he's measuring the distance and trying to figure out how far can that plastic go and different things and doing some calculations. He goes, well, hang on a minute. Maybe I can program that into something. And he starts the very first calculations of this, not graphical at all yet. But he's the most amazing guy, maybe except for you. I'm learning about you. We'll see. Get my hand on the right way. um, that I've ever met. And the reason being, as far as pure intellect, I'd be talking to him about a very complex aspect of some of the software we were developing at the time. And I'm a young kid out of college, but I understood a little bit of what was going on. And so I was asking him some very difficult questions. And he's answering like this. And as he's doing it, he's over here writing down on a notebook another formula that he wants to try in his software. His brain is completely in parallel. And you could tell he was not distracted in the conversation.
Yeah.
He's literally holding two things in his mind at the same time at full speed. And who knows, there might have been more than that.
Yep.
Going on. But yeah, he was from Melbourne, Australia. And later on, when I worked for Apple, I got a chance to go down there and visit Melbourne and the development centers there.
So, like, moving on to firearms and shooting and everything like that, and obviously, the world of, your RC planes and engineering and everything like that. I believe that you also build and work with firearms as well.
I do. In fact, let me pull up this thing here. I'll show you a picture, right there, of what started me into firearms altogether. And that was my father, who passed a few years ago. But he, sorry, I'm trying to walk and chew gum at the same time. I'm not being very successful at it. Let's just do it this way. He bought me this. And so when I was 10 years old, he was really getting into shooting muzzle-loading firearms. And we go down to a place called Friendship, which isn't too far away from me, but it's the center for muzzle-loading rifle shooting in the U.S. And so he buys a really nice custom rifle, big, long Kentucky type rifle, 36 caliber and all that stuff. And so he saw I was really enjoying it. So he bought me a kit called a New Orleans Ace. Now, this is not a picture of my real gun. My real gun is finished better than this one, because if you can see here, the metal, the wood goes down to the metal, and it's just not polished out and kind of rough. Well, that wasn't going to be allowed with my father. He was going to help me do it to a high level, or it wasn't going to be done. And my grandfather was a woodworker, so between them teaching me, I finished mine, and I still have it. I just didn't have a chance to bring it up here tonight. But handling it on live TV would probably get us all banned anyway.
Yeah, no, we'll get in trouble for that.
Yeah, but it's called a New Orleans Ace, and it's a boot pistol. So in the mid 1800s, gambling was a big thing, but it was also very dangerous. And so this would fit on the inside of your boot, and it was 45 caliber, one shot, and it was rifled. I have no idea why it was rifled. This long a barrel, the hammer is your sight. So I really don't know why you had to worry about rifling, because you're not going to hit the broadside of a barn 10 feet away. But so I built this thing, got it going, and had a lot of fun shooting it. And so they made sure they teach me gun safety and all this, and safety related muzzleloaders, which is quite different in certain cases. Keeping it clean, all this sort of stuff. So that's the very first one I ever built. Now, I have shown on your channel, let's see, this one. Let's see if I can get this to come up well. Do you see that one? Okay.
Yep.
So this is one I built. I built my father a custom one later on, and but this is one I built my father-in-law, and this is a full-length flintlock with a 42-inch, 54 caliber barrel, and it's rifled, of course. And but as I grew along in this, I took the time to work with a master gunsmith at a place called Conner Prairie, north of Indianapolis. And he taught me to engrave. And we'll show you some of the engraving in a little bit. But it's the old-fashioned engraving. This is not machine done. This is a single-point chisel in your hand, and you're just going dink, dink, dink with a hammer, moving yourself around a little bit. But when I got to the level of building my father's, I built one for myself, I built one for my father, then I built one for my father-in-law. I got to where on all of those, I didn't want to build them, well, for my father and for my father-in-law with anything but the absolute best possible materials, because when you spend 500 hours of your life, it better be really good. And that's what it takes to get to a rifle at this level that you'll see. So this piece of wood alone, at the time, I'm sure it's probably more, was $750. The barrel was about $250 then, lock about $150, and it just stacks up. And so you end up with a lot of money in this, plus your time. So you really want to, kind of make sure you know what you're doing. And then you get to the inlays and engraving, which is what the master gunsmith, John Shippers is his name, taught me how to do. And so you spend a lot of time learning how to design, how to make things look appropriate for the rifle at the time, and then actually execute it and make all this stuff work. The thing he taught me that's probably the most valuable, and anybody ever considers doing this, do not expect your engravings to be perfect. The best engravers hide their mistakes because it's really difficult to do. I mean, this is brass. I also engrave steel and silver and gold on the latest rifle I'm working on, trying to finish for this Christmas for a friend. It's really quite difficult going through all those different materials and to do something like that. Oops, that's something later. But anyway, I just thought you might see that's sort of where I've gotten to with building custom guns.
Is there anything that you don't do?
Well, this is a problem. If you ask my wife, I have too many hobbies, and she's exactly right. So I'm trying. I haven't successfully done this yet. I'm trying to reduce the number of hobbies, like the RC aircraft. I haven't flown my big ones in 2 years now, which is a sin. I've flown my small electric ones, but I'm either going to fly those big ones or sell them. You know, it's kind of, I've been doing so much shooting and YouTube stuff that you lose bits of your life, and my life's really busy taking care of elderly parents right now too. So you got to kind of choose, right?
Well, that's it. You know, you got to, unfortunately, there are priorities that we got to look after. And, you know, over a period of time, you know, those priorities do change and everything like that. So, yeah, I'm just purely blown away by that muzzle loader and, you know, the amount of detail. And, you know, there's a guy, he's over in UK. I think it's TGS Outdoors. He's all about shotguns, and he goes to a lot of those manufacturers, and the hand graving that they do on those shotguns is
crazy. That's at another level altogether.
Yeah,
now, sometimes they're using machine assistants and stuff, but the quality is so high.
Like, where do you learn that sort of stuff? Is it just trial and error, or where do you start with that?
There are, and I don't know about around the world. I'm sure there are places around the world, but in the U.S. there are specific schools that you can go to learn from. Now, I learned from a master engraver, a master gunsmith, like I told you, who was the master gunsmith for Conner Prairie. And Conner Prairie is a pioneer settlement. And so they moved old buildings into this area, and the people there live like this. You know, it's their job, but during the day they live like this to show people how they lived. And he's making guns to show people how they made guns back then. And so I learned from him. But there are other engravers and gun making schools. There's a few of them, and generally in my area of the country. So you can go to learn that, you know.
Yeah, just the craftsmanship. And I guess, like, one of my things that my father used to tell me is that, you know, a lot of these skills is going to disappear with how society is moving forward, with how everybody has the disposable mentality.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts about that?
When it comes to stuff like that, is like I told you, I put the best of everything into it. The one I'm working on now, and I am literally many years overdue on getting it to him. But it's kind of like I get so far and it's so good, I don't want to make another mistake. And again, I get a paralysis going. It's really bad. This is not a good trait. So if there are any kids out there, don't do this at home. But I don't want to make a mistake. So I set it down, I walk away, and I come back to it. Well, this Christmas, I have to get this thing done. I have 2 inlays to engrave, the barrel to finish, and then I just got to do the final sanding and finishing of the wood. So I'm really, really close. But it's the idea when you put literally 500 hours of your life into it and you're making it for somebody you really care about. Not that I wouldn't do a good job for somebody else, but I won't do rifles for anybody else to these levels. I may never do another one to this level I'm doing this guy's. But you know it's going to last, and it's going to be an heirloom. And you need to think about that when you do it. Don't shortcut, because 50 years from now, some kid or some adult can be looking at it going, what an idiot. What do you do that? You know, I want somebody to be happy to say, hey, my dad owned this, and now this is mine. I'm going to give it to my kids. Not this, I want to stick it in the corner and not really show anybody, you know?
Do you have any other photos and projects that you can show us?
I do have some other things. Let me see. Let me look real quick here. I got a lot of other things like we talked about, but too many things. I can't show you. Let me go back to these. Actually, let me go back to one before we get too far away from where we started. Yeah, this one. Let me share this. Sorry.
Just real quick, I'll just say g'day to Tim. Thanks for. Hope you got your drinks and everything, because I know that you ducked off down to the shop. So welcome back.
So this is me a few years ago.
If you-
Okay. So you talk about other hobbies. This is one of the big achievements that you can do in life. And a lot of people go, "Oh, I just fly in a plane." It's actually really hard to do, and to get really proficient enough to fly one at this level. I've flown bigger than this. The biggest I've flown is a twin-engine King Air turboprop plane. It was like a $6 million plane. I got to fly it one leg of a trip. That was cool. But this is what I got to fly regularly. The company I worked for paid for me to fly. Now, I grew up as a kid flying with my grandfather, and it was the best time ever. So literally from a young kid, I get to go in his plane, go fly with him. We'd go stay with him for a week or whatever. So that put the bug in me, but it wasn't until I was 27 years old that I ever actually thought about doing it myself. I could have taken this in the university and started to fly, but I just knew how expensive it was. And by then, my grandfather had lost his medical, and he had sold his plane. And so it's kind of like, well, me flying didn't really seem a reality. Well, this owner of this company wanted me to come work for him, doing this computer-aided engineering and analysis work for his company. And he said, if you do, I'll pay for you to learn to fly my plane. And so, well, that was one big benefit. I'm in, right? And so I had to learn from the Cessna 152s, which is a fine aircraft, up to a 172. And then I got my VFR license in 172. From then on, when I got my IFR, which is instrument flight rating, and then high performance and complex rating, which has to do with the engine power. Anything over 200 horse, you have to get high performance. This is 300 horse. And then you have variable pitch prop, retractable landing gear. That gives you a complex rating because it's just more things performance, but more things to go wrong or chances for you to make big mistakes. So you got to get additional ratings and certifications for that. Then I got to fly this one primarily. And so to give you an idea, this was about 175 knot plane. So that's roughly, we'll say 195 to 200 miles an hour, something in that range. So real high performance. And it's just something about it. When you're done with this, you know you've really done something, because you have to, especially when you do your instrument flights, you have to learn how to control the airplane. You have to learn how to communicate at real speed, not they're talking to you and you think about it for a few minutes and you come back. You've got to come back right away. Otherwise, they kind of lose confidence. You know what you're doing. And you got to be able to communicate clearly what you need, what they want, etc. And then you have to do this under duress if you have your instrument flight. So you can't see. You're in bad weather. It's raining. You're trying to fly around thunderstorms. You're trying to do all this stuff and you can't see a thing. And you got to make sure all the instruments are telling you the truth. When you get done with those kinds of certifications, it's like you really have done something. And this was the time my flight instructor said, oh, by the way, you've now become a 1%. So it's the second time in my life I became a 1%. Because he said 1% of the people of the population will ever get a chance, will ever get their pilot's license. And he says it's less than that for the people that can be able to fly an instrument in a higher performance plane like that. So yeah, so this was a fun part of my life, and growing up with my grandfather flying is just memories I'll never forget. It was a good time.
Where are some of the places that you traveled to?
Well, I've traveled all around the world, but not me flying. Me flying, I've flown as far as almost to Maine, so that's a long way from Indiana. That's a long way. Down through Atlanta and Georgia area, all through the south, and as far west as Colorado Springs, which is just on the edge of the Rocky Mountains, and then down through Texas and then north up through Minneapolis. So 2/3 of the country I've flown this. My grandfather flew his all the way to Alaska twice.
Yeah,
And
wow.
he had a Comanche 180. And I later on in his life, he didn't have his plane anymore, but I didn't take him flying in this one. But we talked about him and that flying that 180. And he took off with my grandmother with a group of other 6 other planes to Alaska, and they would fly together like that as kind of a, I don't know what you call it, travel. They made a travel log, but a group, a flying club, right? And they flew to Alaska. On the way there, on one of the legs, one of the planes disappeared and crashed into the woods and killed everybody on board. And it was a mid-leg part of the journey, so they all turned around and came back home. Just ended the trip. So a few years later, they did it again. They finally made it to Alaska safely, and then they had a great time and all that stuff. So it's not without danger, right? But this plane was amazing, just amazing.
Yeah, again, like I gotta live all this sort of stuff through YouTube, and what I've seen is simply amazing. And one of my go-to channels that I like to watch is Missionary Bush Pilot, and he flies a lot in the mountains of Papua New Guinea, and he's trying to land this plane through mountains and landing on a 14-degree slope, and what pilots do is simply out of this world, because it just comes down to pure skill and training and dedication. It's not something that you can simply just pick up and do. And the guys that fly jet airliners that can make those quick decisions and save people's lives. Um, it certainly is a 1% mentality, that's for sure. Because the average Joe would just simply they psychologically would just lock up, and they
Yeah,
wouldn't be able to perform under those high stress situations. Like, only just recently, there was a bit of an engine incident out of Sydney, and they posted the airline air traffic control communication, and I sat there and listened to it, and these guys were just acted like it was a Sunday lunch. How calm they were, took their time and everything, and got the plane back on the ground.
yeah. I tell you a story, and it'll lead into another topic because I want to talk about you in a minute. And you'll
Okay.
know why. You know why. But my uncle, whose son was Jeff, and we'll talk about Jeff in a minute. And my uncle just passed a little over a year ago. Um, but he was an amazing person as well. You talk about his life, it just dwarfs mine. He was a surgeon, and he traveled all around the world. But before he was a surgeon, he taught biology at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. And before that, and sometimes during that, he was a professional motocross racer. I mean, it's like he told me, he said, I decided I'd rather fix them than being fixed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Crashes are real things, right? And so he did all that stuff, and he would travel the world and do free surgery with these different groups in Africa. And his filter was turned off late in life. I swear it was, because he'd come home with all these pictures just showing everybody,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And he'd say, "Wow, look at all these great surgeries did." And one of them, well, a lot of them, my wife and all the girls in the family had to come up with codes because of what was anatomy that was being shown all the time. But
Right.
one of them, the guy had, we don't bleed for this, a testicle the size of a football.
Oh.
This is a serious problem. This is not normal, right? This is an infection. But he's
Yeah.
showing all this with the family TV and the whole room. Everybody's, oh, look how fascinating this was and how we're able to help this guy. Okay, so that's my uncle. But he was also an amazing pilot, to come back around to that point. And
Yeah.
he would take parachuters up for years. He didn't have his instrument license, and he flew many years before I did. And he finally got his instrument license after I did. But he would take jumpers up. His son was the youngest to ever jump in the state of Oklahoma. He jumped at age 6 solo. Now, I think that's borderline child abuse. My uncle
Yeah.
was right there with him, right, to make sure nothing went wrong. But so that's the kind of guy he was. But he had a flight where he took off. And you talk about an engine quitting. He said, "I'm at 10,000 feet above the airport, and we're climbing up to 12,000 feet, and all of a sudden the engine locks out and dies." And
Yeah.
he said, "I turned around to tell them to go ahead and jump, but he said I didn't have to. They were all gone. by the time he turned around, they all bailed on him." And so he just, he says, "No big deal." He says, he just coasted around and waited, bled off his airspeed and altitude, and landed it right there at the stick. He said, "No big deal." But said they didn't wait. They're all they all bailed on him. So
Ab-
that's it. So let me pull up a couple of pictures if you don't mind, because then I want to talk a little bit about my appreciation of you. Okay,
Okay.
and it
Well,
has to do with my cousin Jeff. Okay,
okay.
and so let me go back and share this again.
No worries. I'll just quickly say hello to a few people that have popped in.
Sure.
Uh, we got the man, the myth, the legend, old Joe. How are you, Joe? I hope you're doing well. We got George. G'day, George. Who else we got? Mike. I hope you're doing well, Mike. Uh, Speaking of Mike, for everybody, we've got Mike joining me on my stream next Saturday as well. So that's going to be a really cool conversation. And Mike also has a fantastic stream as well that's coming up a little bit later today. Has it every Saturday, and same for you, Brian. You're a regular on Mike's stream, and it was awesome to be a guest on his stream last week. So that's really great. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun, and especially teasing Chad. So
He deserves it. He
does,
deserves
it. Who else we got? We got Dwayne. G'day, Dwayne. I hope you're doing well, mate. Thanks for popping in. All right. What do we got here?
All right. So I'm going to show you some pictures. And this is my cousin Jeff. Now, my cousin Jeff passed about 2 years ago. Okay. But I don't want to do this. It's not just, hey, look, he has the same kind of disability that you deal with, right? I want to talk about the amazing person that he is and how I literally see this in the little time that I've got to know you and in your story and your video that you did. Jeff never let anything stop him in life. Now, his defect, his problem here is really caused by a medication that was given to mothers in the 60s for morning sickness. And that's what caused this. And so he didn't feel like, he was harmed somehow or whatever. He just adapted and moved forward. And I just think it is the most admirable quality that there is out there, because he didn't stop anything. As I mentioned to you before a little bit, Alan, we would play football, right? And he would grab that football, and you can relate to this, how you have to hold it with your arm, your hand, your chest, your neck, all this stuff together. And he would bull over us like you can't believe. I mean, he would knock me flat on my butt. But because every other part of his body compensated. His chest was like an iron. I mean, his legs were so strong, etc. And he never he had the diehard spirit. It's like, I'm going in there, and I got one way to go in there, and it's with my head.
I can relate to that. Yep.
Yeah, it's like an amazing guy. And we would play chess every year at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and he would kick my butt. I would imagine we probably played 80 to 100 games in our lifetime, and I beat him one time, and I think it's because he let me. Oh. An amazing mind, and he went on to teach mathematics. That was his thing, and so that's the kind of thing you see from his life. He rode bicycles. It's like, okay, so we got to adapt a little bit. No big deal. He kept right up with all of his brothers and sisters and brothers on that kind of thing. And later on in life, he became a handgun owner. And you think, okay, shooting with rifles, that challenge. And now you start to relate maybe to shooting a handgun. He didn't let it stop him. He found a way to do it. And he had to go, and he lived in Oklahoma. He had to go and get certified to be able to do that, right? And he passed all the tests. And that is a real challenge, right? With having some limitations there. He never let it stop. And so I wanted to do that just because, I'll stop sharing that, just because of what I've been seeing and what I've seen for your story. And I have mad respect for you, crazy respect for you. All the stuff you talk about doing in your life, accomplishments in your life, it's just amazing, because it's like, I have drive in my life, but I don't have the kind of drive and focus that I see in you and I see in Joe. And I wish I did, to be honest, because that leads you to success. And it's just success in anything that you want to try, right? And not to give up. And I just think it's amazing. And I really appreciate that of you.
I wanted to show this because the picture that you just showed of I just was blown away by on his push bike. He had the handle modification, and I don't really have a good photo, but it's like we're on this other side of the world, but my father came up with the exact same modification to allow me to ride my push bike when I was a young boy, and this is obviously a long time ago. Still had training wheels, but obviously I was able to move on and use the bike without training wheels, but like just the handle modification. I just found that really fascinating that we did the exact same thing.
I mean, you adapt, right? And he's like, I want to do that, and I'm going to do that. And that's the kind of attitude he had in everything. And I'm sure you did as well. I mean, I think it's amazing. You talked about all your swimming accomplishments. It's like that is a never die attitude right there. I mean, I just love that, and I'm really glad to get to know you a little bit and see that kind of thing, because I see the parallel to what I saw in my cousin in you.
Yeah, like the swimming, and like if I look back on it, like I butted heads a lot with my parents and everything like that, and I didn't see the wood for the trees back then when I was young, and especially from 5-year-old right up through to about 14 or 15 years old. I had a very combative attitude towards my parents, and they were simply just trying to encourage and teach me a lesson to be able to keep moving forward. And those lessons have really stood really well with me for the entire life, because if it wasn't for mum and figuratively giving me a kick up the bum to get on with things, there's no way in hell that I would have the attitude to do what I do at the moment. So I actually said to mum recently, we had a bit of a heart to heart, and a bit of a thank you to say thanks for kicking me, and thanks for going through those hard times with me, because I know I was a very challenging child.
Yeah.
To try to understand my place in the world, because I didn't, obviously as a young person I had no idea, and still now it's still, you're fumbling away through trying to figure yourself out. But as you said, you just got to learn and overcome and adapt, and same as what he's experienced. Everything you have to learn and change and develop, which I'd love to try handguns. I'd really do. But that's a challenge that I want to overcome, and hopefully one day I can find one that I can have a try at, like especially like a 22 revolver or something like that. I think that I could do, but like if anything with a slide or anything like that, I think that'll come back and bite me a little bit. But revolver, or even like a small little Derringer, something like that.
He had a revolver, and honestly, I don't know what type it was. I can ask my cousins and find out. But that, or even like a single shot target 22, that kind of stuff. So you don't, a regular revolver, right? I've got a video on my channel sometimes. If you guys want to see like what a 454 Casull looks like, I caught a perfect video, and it throws this massive fireball, 4-leaf cluster fireball out in front of the cylinder, right? That would be a problem if it was too close to you, depending on how you hold it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you put it on a rest in front of you a little bit, maybe not a Casull, it's going to hurt. But like you said, 22 revolver, it's not going to do that. There's I think a lot of good options you could probably figure out. And I don't know about the laws in Australia and owning those things, but if you come here, I'll hook you up.
Also, it is the laws, but also it's finding somebody that's got the kahunas to let me have a go. Like one of the guys at the range, he encouraged me to have a go at shotgun, and I was very hesitant and everything like that. He's like, no, let me show you, let me help you, and we can at least have a go at it. And I shot the 12 gauge shotgun. It didn't go well, but it hurt. It hurt a hell of a lot, and I thought it bloody blew my hand off, but but that's it was a good experience, and I was able to understand where we're at and what sort of modifications I needed to do, and ended up purchasing myself a 410, and and every now and again I go out and I sit the 410 up on top of a tripod, and I can actually hit some clay targets that are flying through the air. Out of 20 targets, I might only hit one, but hey, I can hit a target.
Yeah. That's an accomplishment of its own. I mean, that's manning up right there. I mean, his shotguns hurt if you don't hold them right. right?
Oh,
And the challenge for you would be holding them right, and it's like
yeah.
that could hurt. And yeah, that's awesome that you tried that and did that, and then got one of your own.
I actually got a video on my channel. It's just a short of me shooting my 410. So
I'll
um,
find that.
yeah, definitely go have a look. It's pretty cool, and yeah, got it all set up and um, copped a little bit of hate on it, but anyway, I don't really care because I'm having a go at it. So
Right.
a lot of the keyboard warriors, they haven't done anything. So that sort of stuff, it doesn't bother me.
Now I don't know. I think I saw some things you talking about this a little bit too, but I know later in life Jeff had, because your body has to compensate for so many other things. He had a lot of hip trouble, stuff like that. Later on, as he got older, I don't know if that is an issue for you or not, if that's common, but I think it has to do, like I said, what he explained to me was because of compensating for so many other things. So
Could he walk?
he did for a long time, yeah, for a long time. Now
Mm.
later on in life, I think the last 3 years or so, he was pretty much in a wheelchair. He'd get up small things, but yeah, he walked.
Yeah, I can't walk.
Okay.
The doctors in the infinite wisdom thought they could, because with the congenital disability, they thought they could, because it's also affecting the knees as well.
Yeah,
And
that's right. That's right. He said that too. Yeah.
yeah, so my, like as you said, he what's I'm trying to think of, he was affected by the medication. So thalidomide
Yeah. That's it.
was
That's it.
certainly a prevalent birth control drug here, even here in Australia. And I get that question all the time, but no, I'm actually not a thalidomide baby.
Okay.
I'm just I don't know, one of those things, I guess.
Right. Right.
um,
Right.
and yeah, in the doctor's infinite wisdom, they thought they could fix me. And back 30 years ago, they thought they could fix my knees because obviously with the birth defect, the parts are not in the normal space.
Uh-huh.
And 30 years ago, that operation was a very new operation. And there was myself and another young lad that did it. And unfortunately, mine was not successful. And for quite a period of time, I got around in I you'd probably know what a polio brace is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the metal calipers and everything like that. So for
Yeah.
many years, I got around with that. And that was very heavy, cumbersome, bit of equipment to try to lug around. And eventually, I decided to use a wheelchair simply because of the independence.
Sure.
Because I was looking at moving out of home and everything like that, and had to figure out a way to do things on my own, and had to get rid of the leg brace because it was just too difficult. And
Well, like I said, I didn't want to, make you uncomfortable, but I just
no,
wanted to just let you know because I'm amazed by you, and like I said, I see the parallel with Jeff and you, and it's something everybody can look up to. I mean, it's it's the mental commitment is just amazing to me, and so that's I just want to mention that, and I probably went too long about that, but anyway, um, thank you for discussing that too.
no, it's all good. It's all a part of my story, and same as as you said for Jeff, it's all a part of his story. And um, like have a time to talk about it is more than happy, because I'm sure there's many people that are curious. And um, a few people that I have spoken to have encouraged me to share my story. And hence why I released that video about my story and how I got into shooting. And it's a very broad stroke of a story,
Yeah.
because I'm still learning how to, not learning, but trying to build my confidence as well to be able to share my story a little bit. And
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if the Mario target hurt your confidence. I
how
think
do I go with that? I don't remember my
that's
story.
tonight. By the way, that's tonight. So if you can tune in or join Hillbilly Up show, we're going to be giving away the KYL, another prize I have for second place, and then the Red Rider BB gun.
No,
So,
there you go.
but you're in the
When is
drawing.
it?
You're definitely in the
When?
drawing. He's at
Oh,
10 o'clock Eastern, so it's 3 hours from now. I don't know if that works for you or not, but
there you go. Do you have a link? do you have the link for the stream that you can just
Oh,
pop
yeah,
it
yeah,
into
yeah.
the chat?
Sure, sorry.
Yeah, by
Yeah,
all means.
let me get that. I'll get it for you here. Hang on.
Thank you, Chris. Hope you're doing well, mate. Who we got? Oh, Joe plus Alan has a Seiko. How is he not going to be a badass? Yeah, I love that Seiko.
I got to go to. It take me just a
Actually,
second to get on my channel to do
I've seen your video that you released, Joe, and talking about $80 American for a Kimber magazine. Like, oh mate, I wish it was $80. Like for a Seiko, for a 9-shot magazine is $220. So I think that works out to be $150 for you guys in America.
There you go. I'll throw it in the chat. I think I'll be able to do it. Let's see.
Yes, Mike. Thank you so much for sending the link, and I'll definitely pop in and have a go at chat again.
I put it in the main chat and in the private chat to you too there if you didn't have it. So
yeah, yep, cool.
But yeah, so we giving away, like I say, the KYL for the whoever wins on all the top. Everybody gets a chance at winning the KYL, right? Everybody does. It's just the people that won or got second place get a few more chances. Is the way we've done the raffle. But everybody that entered the contest gets a chance. Same thing with second place, except for the person that wins first place. Everybody else will get a chance of getting that prize. And then only the people that were in the last place, or there's one surprise for another entry in there. There's 5 people that would get in the raffle for the Red Ryder BB gun. And it's something I did for fun. And then I started a Red Ryder challenge to shoot it in. So we're going to have some fun tonight on Hillbilly Up Show.
No, that'd be awesome. Yeah, so I've popped in the link there, and it's just up on screen. So everybody, make sure you come along and check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun, especially going through that. Oh, mate, like certainly interesting. Hearing about your RC planes and engineering background, and obviously Jeff and everything like that. So, I'm always curious about shooting. Like I love talking about shooting and firearms and everything like that. What would be your favorite discipline to shoot?
Anymore, it's 22. And more or less Benchrest type shooting, except I'm shooting all these stupid challenges. It's like I'm spending crazy amounts of ammo money shooting these challenges. I finally had to back away for a few of them, and I haven't shot any. I shot my own, but I haven't shot any for a while. It's just like, man, I went out to the range and it's like I dropped $120 on 22 ammo trying to shoot.
Yeah,
it's like
I'm feeling you that.
That's fine, but not 2 times every week. Yeah. So, but I do like that. My overall though, if I had to pick one, and I really do like, I'm getting into NRL 22 series shooting, that kind of stuff too. I've been doing that lately. But overall, if I had to go back to the one I've shot the most and one I enjoy the most, it is muzzleloading. And of that discipline, I used to shoot offhand percussion, but now it's offhand flintlock. And that's a whole new level of discipline. And I think that's why it helps me on a lot of these other shooting, because you know this, right? You think about focusing on Benchrest, every movement matters. And when they talk about follow through in a 22, it really matters, right? It's like that bullet is fast, but you can move the barrel before it gets out, right?
Yeah.
And in a flintlock, that's really the case. Now, if you do your job and you have a good flint, a really good lock, and everything's clean and the right amount of powder, and you built the gun properly, it can be really fast, that ignition. But there's still a few microseconds there where it's going to go boom, right?
Mm.
Now, doing my job, you can never perceive it. Now, when they're not dirty, when they're dirty and not done well, you get the people to go boom, right? Follow through matters. It matters a lot in shooting flintlocks. But I still shoot hair triggers. I mean, all this sort of stuff. I have 2 stage triggers, the original type 2 setting, 2 double triggers, double set triggers, they call them. But that is probably where my real heart is. But it helps you understand, and maybe it helps me a little bit in the other disciplines too, because you have a limited amount of time and a limited amount of shots, and it takes a lot of effort to get those shots right, because at the highest level, you're going to clean usually between every shot, and certainly between every second or third shot. Now I get by with shooting about 3 because of the type of lubricants and things I use that kind of self clean a little bit. But I shoot real black powder, and it's really dirty, and so you got to get everything just right, to hit that fast ignition to stay on target, and then you're holding, a 6 to 9 pound gun out here. It's really out in front of you.
I was going to say they're very heavy.
And it's hard to do. And one thing I actually haven't done too much is Benchrest them. And so I haven't shot them at all on my channel yet, but this year is going to change that. I'm going to shoot and bring out some I built, some that I bought, and shoot them, and we'll have some fun.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think there's any that I've come across any muzzle loading content around that really goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the case that you found, or have you found any other?
Well, there are a lot of
there,
channels, but they're not the typical gun tube channels. There are a lot of guys that they're just related to what we call NMLRA, National Muzzleloading Rifle Association, that whole group, and they're really focused on the competition side of muzzleloading. Some hunting, they all hunt, but not quite like the normal hunting channels either. So there's a big gathering for them, but I think the size of the population on YouTube is just not as big.
Yeah, right. I still think it'd be a fascinating world to watch and learn about. Like some of the guys that I know, they're into it, and I just haven't had the chance to go and watch them shoot. And certainly something I'd love to try.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, you come to the U.S., you will look me up. We'll shoot these kind of things, and I could take you to that, literally the World Center for Muzzleloader. But it's an experience like none other, because the fire, the smoke, the smell. It's like from a movie called Good Morning Vietnam. It's like, oh, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Well, I say I love the smell of sulfur in the morning, because if you don't like the smell of sulfur, don't shoot real black powder.
Yeah.
Oh, I do have a pic. Let me find it. I'll show you a really good picture of what that means.
Yeah, definitely.
I have one.
So let's quickly say hello. We got Don. G'day, Don. How are you, mate? Thanks for popping in. Hope you're doing well. Who else we got? We got Chris, and we got Mike. Mike, hope you're doing well, mate. Great to catch up with you last week. If you guys haven't seen that fantastic conversation, make sure you check it out. It's really interesting to talk to Mike about his service and everything that he was up to. So, yeah, really, really fascinating. All right.
So you tell me when you can see that.
Yeah, yep, go for it.
Okay, so this is me shooting at Friendship. This is where the National Muzzleloading Rifle Association headquarters is. And this one is 25 yards offhand flintlock. And I'm telling you what, if you're outside of an inch with all your shots, you're going to lose. These guys are crazy good. But to give you an idea, that's real black powder. And the flintlock has just gone off. And there's still a little bit of fire right here, but it's set the main charge off, and you can see fire coming out the end.
Yeah.
And all the smoke. And it gives you an appreciation of what these guys went through to hunt, to live, but also to fight the battles that were fought. And we talk about once everybody started firing, you couldn't see a thing. You could see why. I mean, you can't hardly see through that now to aim precisely. But this is the rifle I built for my father-in-law many years, the one you saw there in the other picture. And this, when I gave it to him, there's a museum there that the gun maker is called Gunmakers Hall, and you have to kind of qualify to get it to put your gun in there. And I got this gun. They said, okay, it's good. You can hang it up in this room. And so I hung it up in the room, and I took him to there, and I said, let's go in and take a look at these guns. And he didn't know anything about it. And so we walk in there, and he sees these guns. I said, boy, that's a really nice one, isn't it? He goes, oh, yeah, I really like that one. I said, good, that's yours.
Wow.
And so we took it off the wall, and we took it out. And unfortunately, he couldn't shoot it at the competition because he wasn't registered and qualified to do it. So I took it and shot it in that competition. And that's me doing it there. Anyway, I thought I'd show you, because fire and smoke it's an awesome experience.
Without upsetting the YouTube gods, I want to ask you, what is the process of actually building one of these flintlocks? Like, obviously, we just got to be some of the wording, but I'm curious what the process is, and obviously you said 500 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
Like where would you sort of start with that?
If I would advise anybody to do anything, it's to there are various companies out there now that will sell. Basically, it's like an 80% kit. So the barrel is almost all the way inlet, and then you have to install what's called the breech plug in the back of it, and then fit that into the rifle. So a little bit of chisel work. Some of you can buy where almost all that's done. You just have a very little bit of wood to remove to make the fit just right. Um, then you have to. Then they'll have the lock almost all the way inlet. So then you fit the lock, and then you have to do some alignment. And you have to drill what's called the touch hole. So from the lock going into the barrel, there's a hole that goes sideways. You have to make a mark and then have it drilled and mounted in there. And then it's a lot of just sanding and
Yeah.
finishing and maybe filing work to get what you want. Now, you don't have to put all those inlays in. Some of the gun styles are not appropriate for inlays. They were without inlays. And so you can choose a lot of different paths to cut the time back and still have guns that shoot better than anything you can buy. Because generally the barrels and the locks and the triggers you're going to select when you do all that are better than the commercial guns. So.
Awesome. All right, I just wanted to just quickly touch on that before we upset the YouTube gods. I know that you're in, like, I want to talk about your channel and everything like that. So can you tell me a little bit of background about your channel?
Yeah, my channel is a lot about what I like. A lot of channels are like, oh, I'm only going to do handguns, or I'm only going to do this or that. I just like to show what I like to do, right? And what I like to do varies a lot, just like you see in my too complex hobby life. But I really enjoy precision shooting more than anything else. And so I spend a lot of time and a lot of effort and a good bit of money trying to take any gun that I own and bring the absolute best out of it. Even in guns, like I swore I would never build a 300 Blackout. I built one. So now I'm trying to make it a precision 300 Blackout. And I'm working on ammo and every other little trick I have in the book, to try to, and I've got it to shoot better than most. Not as good as I want, but better than most. I did the same thing. I built what I call the AR-47. It's an AR that shoots the AK 7.62 by 39 round. And getting it to function right and getting it then to shoot accurately. And I shot it with all kinds of factory loads, and then I did hand loads even for that too. That was fun. I sold it. I wish I had.
Yeah.
But then I got in. I thought, okay, I got to do the same thing for 9mm. I got to do an AR 9mm carbine, 16-inch barrel, and I blew up the first one. I mean, and there are videos on my channel. I show everything that I do. I don't hide. It wasn't a mistake necessarily that I made. It was just a combination of things and designs from a couple companies that allow the case to be unsupported. And when you shoot rounds at a higher pressure, which I was, than an unsupported case, like a Glock, you get a Glock bulge. Mine did more than bulge. It separated the head off the round, and it blew the magazine out. Now, fortunately, in an AR, it sounds terrible. It's not so bad because everything's kind of contained. But I finally figured out the root cause and got some things changed, and now the gun is perfect. But I just try to wring out everything I can out of anything that I have. And I don't know if it's OCD. You guys can call me OCD if you want. I just like that's the challenge I like. I'm sure it's like you with Benchrest, right? The thrill of being precise and accurate and doing absolutely the best, and then getting to where the gun is as good as it's going to get. And now you got to fix you, because I can get the gun to be perfect, and I still got to fix me. It's that kind of challenge that I like.
Yeah, that's the thing I love with the Benchrest shooting. We've got to that point where now it is not the firearm problem, it is a me problem. Yeah. And I think that's harder to accept. Yeah. You're trying so hard to work through it. And, a lot of us Benchrest shooters are renowned for blaming everything else except ourselves. It's either the wind or the ammunition or the equipment or something. We're always the last to look at. And, I think, trying to change ourselves is certainly the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, it is. And it's like we were talking the other day about heartbeats and all this sort of stuff. And when you get into the level of shooting like that, you can sit there and watch your heartbeat doing this, right?
Yeah.
And I know in your case, you're trying not to interact as much with that gun as you do in other disciplines. And you can still see it, doing all this stuff. And then you got to fight the wind and everything else and your attitude of the day. And it's an awesome challenge. And a lot of people just don't like that challenge. They want to go out and bam, 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 hit steel as fast as they can. And I do that too. But what I enjoyed most, though, is precision shooting.
Yeah, and like I delved into that topic last week with Mike as well, and he had the opportunity to have a go at F class, and he was very surprised on the world of Benchrest shooting, and how complex it can become. Even like as you said, the heartbeat. I've witnessed that so many times, and you don't see the wind properly, or you're having a bad day. All these things, certainly added up, and then you got your mate sitting in the background chirping at you, trying to psych you out, and everything like that as a bit of friendly competition, and and then you try to do little fun things like as I've shown. I shot an ant that was crawling across
awesome.
a wire.
That was awesome.
Yeah, like I replayed that back many times in my editing software because I thought, I just clipped a bit of wire, but no, I absolutely plumbed him, and that's why I was so surprised, even for myself, and that was certainly a once shot to be able to get that ant, and especially that range that I go to, it is so complex. The geography of that range, you not only left, right, winds, up, down. Oh, it's it's a good one, that one.
Well, it's kind of like sometimes you have the day, everything's working perfectly, ammunition, and even you don't screw up. And I sent you one of those pictures, if you remember that a while back, with my custom 1022. If you guys that shoot 50-yard 22s, you'll appreciate it. I shot a .108 inch 5-shot group with a 1022.
Yeah.
I've never been able to do it again. It's a good solid 0.3, 0.4 inch gun, but it's like when you have that day and you're that focused, that's a good day. And
that is very.
That's a good day.
Oh yeah, like Ivan, it's going to take a long time if I'm able to do that again, and that sort of a grouping size is very, very challenging. And my PB is only 0.162 of an inch, so still a lot to work on, especially like the guys that go to state competitions. They'll shoot their 5 lots of groups, the 5 shot groups. Pretty much all of them are under the 0.15s. It's
wow.
It's just insane accuracy. And one of the guys, I always say, one of the guys, but yeah, one of the guys actually shot 3 0.1 groups there a few weeks ago. And like, what happened? How did you do that? Tell us your secret sauce. Yeah.
Fix.
Yeah, like he's got this voodoo that he's been shooting, and he's running the new the Lapua ammunition that's come out, and it's finally trickled here to us, and it's working well in a lot of rifles. And unfortunately, the gun store has rationed a lot of it, and we can only purchase 1 brick per person, and so we've got to be very mindful of how we're using it. So we're sort of joking to those guys, well, your ammunition's going to run out very soon, and then you're going to be like the rest of us. So
that's the problem, right? Especially with 22. It's like Josh Pursuit, actually, he's got a really good video on this, but it's like, when you get the ammunition figured out, buy, right? Don't hesitate. Well, my problem is I bought this Ely semi-automatic Benchrest precision ammo. I've just bought a couple boxes, and I thought, okay, I'm going to try it one day. And by the time I decided to try it, you can't buy that lot anymore. It's like, you idiot, because it's like once I ran out of that lot, it's like the gun's a good gun, but it's not that kind of gun anymore.
Yeah, it's once you find the Holy Grail, you just got to purchase it. And look, where I live it's unfortunate that I live quite a far distance from the major cities, and that's where they get all the ammunition. Like we're we are very rationed up here. Like once the big cities get their ammunition, then it slowly filters its way through on the trucks. And our silly laws, they don't allow us to even order on ammunition online. Like we can't get it delivered, which is very frustrating. All the ammunition has to be purchased from a firearms shop. But crazy enough, you can purchase a firearm online and getting it delivered to your front door.
That's amazing.
Makes
We
no sense
can't
to
do
me.
that.
Makes absolutely no sense to me. And like, for example, as a license holder, I'm supposed to be responsible for the firearm, but I can get a firearm delivered to my house and my wife can sign for it. She's, and if the police turned up, we're instantly in trouble. It's just some of the rules and regulations are a little bit backwards. And I see Don put a message here that Canada's banned 275, sorry, more rifles. They're going to take those rifles and send them back to Ukraine.
That's about right.
Wow. Wouldn't be surprised with that. And I think it was Mike was saying it as well last week that they're like the rules and regulations. Was his AR? I think he said his AR. He can't even take it out of his safe anymore. There was some firearm he was talking about that it's just has to sit in his safe, and he's no longer able to use it at all. And hopefully, those sort of rules and regulations don't impact us here, because it is getting more and more restrictive. So
that's crazy. And Canada, it honestly is a lot like Australia and the U.S., but more of those two countries. You need firearms when you live out in the bush, right? You need firearms, especially if you have ranches and things. You're going to protect your animals or go hunting or whatever. It's a need. But the problem is the people in the cities are trying to tell you what you need. So,
yeah, correct. And especially like animals that are causing a lot of damages, like hogs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're costing farmers millions upon millions of dollars. And I forget the company's name, but there's a helicopter tour company that are now advertising for people to go out and experience taking down some hogs and everything like that. And there's a bit of blowback saying, that's animal cruelty. I don't think so. I think it is a way of ensuring that farmers are protected and their livelihoods are protected, and of course food sources are protected. Because some of these animals are just causing so much damage, and and it's the same here. Like the amount of damage some of these animals are causing, and primary producers need to have the tools. And even like suppressors here, a very heavily contested topic. Because they feel that they're not needed. But in those sort of situations where you're working on the land, you need those certain tools to do that job. And, the authorities need to be able to fully understand that and actually get out from their desk. Because a lot of these guys are, I call them desk jockeys. They never experience anything. They've never seen anything outside of a university textbook. And that's what their belief is, where sometimes, understanding the real world is different from a university textbook, and how that can, to make a lot of changes in people's lives and not having a proper understanding of what they actually need.
I mean, it's the same argument, right? About people are manipulated in this country too by fear. And it is amazing how many people are manipulated in their thinking by fear. And so people play on that, right? Oh, the firearms are so dangerous. You need to respect them, but they're more dangerous than anything else, right?
That's right.
And it's like driving a car. It's far more dangerous than most firearms, and more people are killed that way. And of course, now that's the fear, right? We'll go back to autonomous driving. Oh, it'll make me safe. It's just people are manipulated easily by fear. You talk about hog hunting by helicopters. If Joe's still on here, other people live down his way too. That's a real thing in Texas and maybe some other states. But you can take helicopter tours and go down and shoot them, and come, with ARs and whatever else you want to take at the time. That's on my agenda, not to shoot for a helicopter, but I've got a good friend down in Houston area that has a ranch down there that has hog problems, and we're going to go down and shoot some. And I have some rifles, like my 6.5 Grinnell. That's why I built it in the end. I've just been doing precision shooting with it, but it's fully ready to go.
Yeah. Um, there are those tools that are there, and there's some tools out there that are simply silly. Like I've seen some guys using Gatling guns and all that sort of stuff. I think
Yeah.
that's a little bit crazy. And 50 cals. There's a bit of a video floating around at the moment of a guy with a 50 cal. Found a feral cat, and I think that was a little bit extreme. But
Yeah.
there's tools and methods of dealing with those certain problems. And yeah, like as Joe says right here, there's a place 20 minutes from his new house that does that.
I figured it would be.
Yeah. No, it's all good tools and everything like that people need to be able to continue to farm, because what happens if the farmers can't produce? We'll go hungry.
And those feral hogs, wild boar we call them here, just are amazingly devastating to the land. I mean, they kill everything on the land, and they tear it all up. And if you don't get rid of them, they breed so fast. And that's a lot of ways. You see guys going out in all these shoots with machine guns or rapid fire weapons. It's because you need to get them all. Because if not, your problem isn't gone. They come right back. They breed so fast.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we're exactly the same. Do you? I don't know much about the hogs, but here, like a lot of we can't even use them for any, meat or anything like that because they're full of disease. Is that the case there?
No, we use them. In fact, they're often donated to different shelters and places where you butcher them. I go down there. If somebody wanted some, I'll give it away for sure. But I'm going down there to fill a freezer too, because it's really good. I like to smoke meat, or what we call barbecue. A little different than barbecue there, but similar, but smoked meat kind of thing. And it's all really good. And so as long as you kill it and you clean it properly, if you don't clean it properly, there's a lot of bacteria issues that can contaminate the meat. But no, it's good.
Yeah, no, a lot of our ones are full of disease and you can't use them. Rimfire Range Relaxation, he's met some young ladies from Canberra and said kangaroos are a menace and overpopulated. Yeah. Yes, they are. We treat them exactly the same as hogs. Kangaroos can cause a lot of damage to fences and water supplies and everything like that. A lot of people go out and hunt them for meat purposes. Actually, kangaroo is really nice. I'm trying to convince my wife to try it, but she doesn't want to yet.
I'd try it.
It really is a beautiful, rich red meat. Very high in protein. You can smoke it. You can do everything with it. Jerky it. You can jerky kangaroo, and it's one of my favorite cuts of meat. And like, you can actually go purchase it from the standard grocery store.
Really?
It's very, very common. And same as like camel as well. A lot of people eat camel, kangaroo.
I thought you just ate shrimp on the Barbie.
We eat shrimp on the Barbie. And like very lot of seafood as well. But yeah, kangaroo is very is a problem. And we also, you have a look at the history books, we had the Great Emu War, where they had to combat the emu problem, and the emus actually won. So they built a fence, built a wall to try to control the emu problem, and they failed. So we certainly have a lot of animals that are that a little bit overpopulated at the moment.
And you have. I don't think it's Tasmanian devil. There's another animal down in Melbourne area that's the most dense by weight animal in the world. And I can't remember what it is because they're about hitting it. It'd be the size of a small dog, but it completely wreck a vehicle. It might be that, but I'm not sure what it was. But yeah, you got some serious animals down.
You're not talking about like a little wombat or something?
Maybe. I can't remember what it was, but they were talking about while we were there.
Yeah, like a wombat is like a small little bear. And if you hit them with your car, it'll take the front end of your car off.
That's probably it.
Yeah, and they're very, and even a lot of people little koalas, but
they're so cute.
No, not really. They're snarly, growly, stinking, horrible things.
Hey,
the amount of times.
your discussion, I don't know why kangaroos did it, but it triggered a story. If you don't mind, I'll tell you real quick. I'll take too much time. My father had his PhD in zoology and a master's in biology, and he taught for many, many years. But one of the things, his specialty in his PhD was in genetics and in parrot genetics. And so he went all around South America doing things, Central America. But he actually was the first person to ever raise cockatoos in captivity. And of course, a native Australian bird, right? And they're everywhere. When I was down in Melbourne, I was amazed to see how many there were around. But they're amazing birds to train and things like that. Well, there was a TV series in the 70s called Beretta. Now, this guy ended up going to jail for killing his wife, but, that's a later story. But at the time, he had a pet cockatoo called Fred. And there may be enough people in this audience, Joe might be one of them, that probably you're old enough to know that show and to do that. Fred was a bird that my father raised in the aviary, a special building built out the side of our house. And one of them he raised from breeding. And I guess they're quite difficult to get to breed in captivity, but he was able to do that. So he sold it eventually. He had it trained, but he sold it to an acting company, further training, and that bird ended up being a star on that show. So sorry, a few gray cells triggered there, but it's kind of an interesting link back to Australia.
Yeah, the old cockatoos, they're noisy things. We get the white cockatoos fly over the house all the time, and when my wife is Filipino, when she got here, she was a bit terrified by the noise. She thought somebody was getting hurt outside or something, especially when they fly over and they're screeching and carrying on. And
they do screech.
The black cockatoos, I really, really like the black cockatoos. I think they're absolutely beautiful birds. They don't seem to screech as much, except the white ones. Oh my God, they keep screeching all the time.
Yeah. We used to have them literally as pets. I'd bring them in the house. They'd sit. My brother had one that just loved to sit on his shoulder all day. Be watching TV and just sit there on his shoulder, stuff like that. But they would also occasionally nip at your ear. That's not so good.
Oh no, they can bite, and they can really make a lot of damage. For the guys that haven't seen a red-tailed black cockatoo, they're absolutely really beautiful birds. Especially with like their plumage down at the bottom, and they're not small birds either. They're quite a large bird. So, yeah, no, really cool. All right, mate. I just wanted to say thank you once again for joining us. I'm just going to pop your channel up here as well, so everybody can have a look. And been absolutely fascinating conversation, and the RC planes, and also the muzzle loaders. So I just want to say, anybody that's watching got any last questions for Brian, jump on there. But obviously, Brian, you're going to be joining Mike a little bit later today, and you're going to be drawing your prize as well for the Mario challenge. So plenty of cool things to have. So so tell everybody where they can find you and everything like that. Hey, Brian.
Okay. Well, one quick thing before I do that, Chris Lang put up a comment. I was just looking over here, talk about these parrots outliving the lifetime of their owners. It's true. My father, one of the types he liked the best, was African gray parrots, and they're because they speak and their ability to learn is unmatched of any parrot, and they can amazingly duplicate human voices. To this day, my father's passed on 15 years ago or so by now, but he'd had this bird for a long time. My aunt still has it, and it still speaks. You can hear his voice just as good as he was standing there. It is the most amazing. It's kind of really eerie, and I think it's why my aunt has it now. But that bird is, it's got to be 70 years old, and it's going to live a long time, assuming it's taken care of well. They just last. Wow. So anyway, enough about that. Like we're talking about, my channel is just about having fun. And I show what I shoot, how I shoot. I like to do challenges. I like to shoot a lot of challenges. This year, I just started doing a couple of my own. So now we're sort of doing the Red Ryder BB gun challenge. And Walnut and Steel, Nibs over there is really partnering up with me and getting a lot of cool targets in there. I got to catch up on my own, but I've been out of town a little bit, and I've been shooting some today. So we're doing that kind of stuff. We just finished the Hazzbro Hammer Time Challenge. That was shooting Mario at different levels and different difficulties. And frustrating. I was really happy, Alan, that you participated in it. I really thank you for doing that. But I think it just about broke Chris or Chad over there at Kentucky Rimfire. he, he just was like, "I'm done." And they shouted again. He's like, "No, I'm really done." It's like he kicked my butt on that the coin challenge that Day at the Range has going on. I shot well, but he shot it perfect, and it's like he can really shoot, but for some reason Mario was getting him. It's really good. So anyway, that's the kind of stuff I like to do. I do a lot. I've done a lot with annealing, specifically the Anneal EZ machine. I like the machine, but I found some limitations, so I just kind of made some parts and made it better. And now they've adopted that approach, so that's fine.
Yeah.
I actually offered the guy, "Here, take all this stuff, just put it on your stuff," and he didn't do it. I don't know, but I just, it's like I just like to show what I do and how I reload and how I'm trying to get things more and more accurate. And you see a progression of my tools and hopefully accuracy as you go through that. But anyway, enough about me.
No, certainly fascinating. And, for everybody that I'm assuming everybody that's watching here today and would have known your channel and everything like that. So, and the challenges, I quite like the challenges. And one thing I said in one of my videos, I can't remember exactly what video I said it in, but, I like the challenges because it's bringing the community together, and no matter where you are in the world, it's something that you can participate in and have that little bit of friendly banter, and everybody can experience the same sort of thing. And I think that's why I always say it. Shooting in general, it brings the community together, and it is something that we can all share a common passion, and especially like old Chad, like getting frustrated, but it's all fun, So.
I had to keep needling him too, and I will for a while. I can't give up on that one.
All right, no worries. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much for everybody joining in. Mike, Chris, Joe, Don, another Mike. There's probably about 3 or 4 mics in here. As we just scroll through, another Mike, George. Chad, Tim, TJ, plenty of you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in once again. As I said, next Saturday, I'll actually have Mike from Hillbilly Up joining me as well. But again, like you'll see Mike a little bit later on his channel. What time is it there for his stream?
10 o'clock Eastern time. Yeah. So about 2 hours and 20 minutes.
2 hours and 20 minutes. And I think Chris asked that as well, like when is the drawing? So the drawing will be on that stream. And I believe one of the rules is that you have to be there to win it.
Well, not on his drawings, yes. And in my drawings generally, but on the contest that we're drawing for tonight, everybody that entered is in the contest. So I'd like you to be online to win it and to chime in. But if you're not, I'm still going to contact you anyway. And so there are a few guys in here, Mike from Long Rifle and stuff like that. He needs to tune in because he's got a lot of chances in this one. He's the only one that shot besides me, that shot every one of the different challenges. And so he's got a few in there. You have chances to win, and several other of these characters do too.
Oh, well, we've got to be there to win it. So looking forward to it. All right, Brian, once again, thank you so much. And we'll see you on the next one.
Hey, thanks, Alan. I appreciate it.
No worries.